birthday plans, girl, you got it.
Hey y'all, long time no see, but we're about to go ahead and hop into this Halloween look because it's time for the girls to get prepared for the season. Of course, we're going to start off with a clean face, and these are just regular Neutrogena wipes, and then we're going to go to shaping the eyebrows. I like to start with Duo Lash Glue and then brush them with my spoolie into place. I'm going to go ahead and map out where I want her scar to go. And then I'm going to take some regular tissue or toilet paper. It really doesn't matter. You can also use Q-tips or regular cotton. I'm layering a small amount of latex, and then I'm going to lay down another layer of tissue right on top. I'm going to keep repeating this process of laying down the latex and putting down tissue on top until I feel like I've gotten to the correct texture. You don't want to do too many layers because you don't want this to be too lifted off the face. After you're done layering your latex, just go around the edges with another light layer and then pull all the excess away. If it starts to pull away the dry latex, make sure you stop immediately and add a little bit more latex to the edges, and then you should easily be able to pull it away. After removing the excess tissue, just go around the edges with some extra latex to seal them. If you do face first when you do makeup, you want to make sure you give them a fan so that way the latex can dry, but I did eyes first, so I just let it dry while I was doing her makeup. And now we're going to hop right into the face. I'm going to start with carving out her eyebrows with some Milani concealer in the shade 165. I'm going to blend that out, and then I'm going to carve out the front part of her eyebrow with Too Faced concealer in the shade Chestnut and Toffee mixed together. After you've carved out the eyebrows, you just want to take that blending brush and blend both of those concealers together all the way and down to her lash line. After your concealer is blended, just set it with some translucent powder. I use Dermablend, and then you're going to hop right into the eyeshadow. For the eyeshadow look today, I'm using Sweater Weather from Bloodline Beauty, and I'm going to use this shade for the SFX as well. I'm going to take the brown shade in the palette and a fluffy brush, and I'm just going to go back and forth from the front part of her eye to the outer edge so I can create some depth in her crease. Now for me, I like to build up my color and then blend out the edges, so I'm just going to take a clean brush. This is almost the same brush but a little bit more fluffier, and I'm just going to clean up the edges, blending them out towards her eyebrow. And there is nothing on this brush, it is completely clean. Then I'm going to take this dark berry tone out the palette, and I'm going to use that on the outer portion of her eye. Then I'm going to apply a darker berry tone right in that edge. Next, I'm going to take a fluffy flat brush. This is a dupe from Real Techniques, and I'm going to use this just to apply the eyeshadow to her lid. I'm picking up some eyeshadow on my brush, and then I am lightly tapping over the lid area where I don't have any eyeshadow already. And then after I see most of the eyeshadow is on the lid, I just take whatever is extra and blend that into the eyeshadows that I have on the outer corners. To make sure everything is blended, I just go back in with that same brush I used that berry color on. After everything is blended, I'm just going to do a small liner with my Sephora matte liner, and then I'm going to use that same berry color to blend out the very edge of that liner. I did my skin prep off camera, and then I'm going to hop right into her foundation. For her foundation, I use Fit Me in the shade 360, and I mix that with a little bit of Macao from NARS. I like to apply the foundation with a flat brush. It just makes it easier to blend, and then I'm going to clean up the sides of that eyeshadow with that same foundation. I'm going to take my foundation brush and I'm just going to tap all over the face to blend out the foundation, starting with the edges and then moving towards the center of the face. After the foundation is blended to my liking, I'm going to take a smaller brush and I'm going to blend around the forehead area in that latex we already had laid down. Next, for her contour, I'm going to mix the shades Suede Mocha and Ebony Brown from Black Opal. I'm going to use that to add some depth into her face. I like to dab my brush right into that cream. It just makes it way easier for me to blend. I'm going to use that same mix of black opal colors to do the contour on her nose. For her cream blush, I decided to pick up this stick blush from Mocha Makes. I think it is the perfect pink color. And I'm going to take another one of those Real Technique brushes and I'm going to blend out this blush. I'm going to blend it in a C motion and then slowly start to work my way down towards my contour. When your blush is completely blended out, you can go ahead and add your concealer to your chin, above your lip, underneath your eyes, and on the nose as well. You're just going to avoid the forehead because we have a prosthetic piece up there. After you apply, you can go ahead and blend it out with your foundation. When it comes to the concealer underneath the eyes, you only want to blend out the edges with this foundation brush, leaving the inside of the concealer to sit and rest and build a little bit more coverage as it dries out. You want to take a small brush to blend out your nose concealer. You can use the same brush you use to blend out the concealer on the eyelids. I'm also going to blend out the edge of that under eye concealer going towards the nose. And then you're going to define that nose with going back in with that same brush you used to contour the nose. Make sure everything is blended after the concealer. Just go back and forth between the brush you use for the contour and the brush you use for the blush, and that's going to give you the perfect blend. I think of the face the same way you think of eyeshadow, and remember you can go back and forth at any time. We're going to add a highlighting concealer, and I actually don't remember the color of this, but we're just going to put it underneath the eyes. I'm going to take my powder puff to blend it out, and this one was a little bit more dense than what I like, so at times it blended out a little more than I needed to, but we made it work. When your under eye is completely blended out, you want to go ahead and set it with translucent powder. I'm using the Bloodline Beauty translucent powder. And if you can't find it online, you can always head to my Instagram at IamShantiSlays, and you can click on any video at any time, and I promise you I'm using Bloodline Beauty products. They have a page on TikTok and Instagram as well. You can find them at Bloodline Beauty. Now I'm going to set the rest of her face with my Fenty Beauty pressed powder in the shade 445. After her entire face is set, you want to go in with a no color powder. The no color powder I use today is Dermablend translucent powder. I'm always going for Dermablend translucent powder, but they do have a RCMA powder that is also a no color powder as well. We're going to bake underneath her eyes. I'm also going to bake her chin, and I usually bake the forehead, but because we have the latex part up there, we're not going to be baking the forehead. And I did use quite a bit of Dermablend powder. I usually don't use this much powder, but it's on there, so we're going to work with it. To contour her face, I'm going to use the Juvia's Place Deep Dark palette, and then I'm going to use that for her cheeks, and I'm also going to use that for her nose. For her bronzer, I'm going to use Mocha Mommy from Fenty Beauty. And then for her blush, I'm pretty sure I used a MAC blush in the shade Pinch Me. And then I added a little bit of extra blush on top from Mocha Makes. Then I'm going to reverse contour with that same Dermablend powder I used underneath her eyes. I'm just going to do a line with my powder puff underneath her cheekbones. To fill in her brows, I'm using my Absolute Brow Pencil in the shade Smoke, and I'm just lightly going to do a bottom line, a top line, and then I'm going to start to fill in that space starting at her tail and then working my way towards the front. I'm also going to do light hair motions when it comes to the front part of the eyebrows. And the same thing I did to the left eyebrow, I'm going to do to the right one. So I'm just going to line the bottom, the top, fill in the middle, go towards the front, do light hair strokes, and then blend it out with my spoolie on the other side of my eyebrow pencil. Really sounds like a lot explaining it, but when you're doing makeup, it moves so fast you don't even think about each individual step you're doing. Now I'm going to line her waterline with this ruby eyeliner from Kiss. I'm going to blend out that eyeliner with the same eyeshadow I used on her lids. I'm not going to use the brown, and I'm just going to use the two berry colors. I was done with the under eyeshadow. It was time to get into the fun part, and that is the scar. So I'm going to start off with the same eyeshadows, that berry one and then the darker berry one from the Sweater Weather palette. I'm going to use that to create some type of bruising like on the forehead. Because we're putting blood on top, you don't have to be too specific with this. Just make sure you have some reds, some blacks, some browns, some burgundies, and maybe a little bit of green in there. Then I took a really small pencil detail brush and I just added some black into the darkest areas that were already on the scar, and I pretty much just gave them a little bit definition, and then I blended them out with the same reds we used before. Now I'm taking my tweezers and I'm just creating a little hole in the middle where I didn't put any color, anything. We're just going to separate the latex from her skin. Because I didn't put too much on that bottom layer, it should be easy to just pull it all off. Now how big you want to make this hole is up to you. You just don't want to go past the edges of the latex. I'm going to take a Q-tip and a little dark maroon paint that I got from Amazon, and I'm going to use that to spread it on the inside of the wound first. Make sure you cover the complete inside and the edges. You don't want to see any light spots of the latex or the tissue. After you finish with that dark maroon color, you just want to go in with some bright reds and just add that to the highlighted areas of the wound. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of her face before I add some blood. I'm going to take my Duo Lash Glue and do a line on her actual lashes. And then I'm going to take some Duo Lash Glue and do a line on her lash band. This is going to make sure your lashes are extra secure onto your eyelid. While that dries, I'm going to do her lip, and we're doing like a pink nude lip today. So I'm going to take this brown lip liner from Kiss and I'm going to line her bottom lip, and then I'm going to line her Cupid's bow. And if you can tell, I do have her pressing her lips together, so I'm going to have her untuck her lips so that way I can do the edges of the top lip. I'm going to take that lip liner and just shade going towards the inside of her lip a little bit so I can create an ombre. I'm so mad my lip wand's on here, so right now I'm using brushes, which is like a ick for me. So I'm going to use a brush and blend out this lip liner, and then I'm going to take this lipstick from Bloodline Beauty again, and I'm going to apply this to the middle of her lip and have her pat her lips together to transfer it to the top. I'm going to take my brush again and blend out those edges. I want to make sure my lipstick is blended all the way into my lip liner. Now I'm just going to apply some lashes. I'm using more of a natural lash on her today since the lashes are not the focal point and the forehead is. These lashes I did get from Shein. Y'all always asking me where I get my lashes from. It's going to always be Shein. As long as I can get 15 pairs of lashes for $3, I will be shopping on Shein for my eyelashes. Which is why my eyelashes are included in every look, because I don't have to pay too much for them. And you get plenty of options. To go over her lip liner, I'm using some clear gloss from the hair store. This is the argan oil one. I think it's the blue one. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. For the inside of her lips, I'm using this pink lip gloss from TBB Beauty, and I love it down, but I think it's perfect for this lipstick. And after I apply enough lip gloss, I'm going to have her pat her lips together again, and then I'm going to blend out the edges with that same brush. In between doing the lip liner and lipstick and the glosses, I'm wiping my brush off each time, because if I was to use a disposable brush, I would probably use about 6. Now it's time to take off that baking powder, so I'm going to take this taper brush and I'm sort of pat swiping it into her skin. So I'm patting it into her skin and swiping away the excess at the same time. Then I'm just going to go back over her powder foundation just to make sure there's no type of filmy residue left behind. And you also want to go back into her contour and her blushes as well. To set her face, I'm going to use my Morphe Continuous Setting Spray. This is an oldie but goodie. I'm never trading on my girl. After I do a spray, I'm just going to let her dry with this fan, and then I'm going to pat that spray into her skin. We have those little hairs on our face, and the setting spray will sit right on top. After I'm done with that layer of setting spray, I'm going to go in with my highlighter, and I'm going to highlight her nose. I'm also going to highlight a little bit of her brow bone and the bridge of her nose as well. Y'all, do not be like me. Please cover up the eyes when you have matte eyeshadows and you're doing setting spray, because it will take off the eyeshadow off the eyelid. I'm never too worried because I just go back in with the eyeshadow, but if you do not want to do that, just make sure you're covering up the eyes when you do setting spray. Now I'm taking some of my Miron Stage Blood, and I'm first applying it to the inside of the scar, making sure I cover all the areas, and then I'm going to apply to the outside. I'm going to slowly adjust and just add more and more until I get the shape that I want to, and make sure it covers all the areas of the prosthetics. Now this is beginner friendly, so I don't expect you all to have textured sponges, but to create the same effect, you can take your spoolie and just dot on the outside of that blood really lightly, and it's going to give you the appearance of having blood splatter. Now, as y'all can see, this time when I did my setting spray, I covered up her eyes. This one is the Revolution setting spray, and it's always what I spray last, and then I pat that in as well. This is why it's always good to know the type of blood that you're using. So this Stage Blood, although it is liquid, it will dry eventually, but it does run still. So make sure you don't apply too much, and then take off all the excess you need. I hope y'all liked this tutorial and it was easy to follow. I am going to try to put out more tutorials during this Halloween season. Short videos, make sure y'all head over to I Am Shanti Slays on Instagram and TikTok. But as always, make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. Bye, y'all.